With pots and planters all over the country bursting with produce, now's the time to sprinkle some magic amongst the veggies.
They look so beautiful.
So join Mrs T and me.
Well done, Alison. Good day's work.
And the Love Your Garden team.
Oh, it looks jazzy.
As our veg patches undergo a dramatic final transformation.
That cabbage is bigger than you, mate.
Into flower-filled,
That's really rather lovely.
sweet-scented
Oh, it smells so delicious.
gardens.
I'm so pleased with this. It's the garden that I always wanted.
It's now been 8 weeks since Alison and I began working on our veg patches.
It's wonderful, just what's happened in just a few weeks. Alison's still behind the camera. You're doing awfully well.
Thank you.
And everything is just burgeoning. I've got carrots coming now. Look at these. Now, they'll only be little, but baby carrots are wonderful in the pan. I like vegetables small because they're tender and fresh that way.
You can still grow late-season carrots from seed in July, and they'll be ready to harvest in September.
Oh my goodness, buttered carrots with basil. Aren't they good, Alison?
Delicious.
Delicious. There's so much more to come as well. The runner beans are legging it up the wigwam, and now you can see why they're called scarlet runners, because the scarlet flowers are in bud just about to open. They'll open and then you'll get a cluster of beans. Harvest them while they're young. Don't wait till they're big and long and stringy, because by picking them young, you'll encourage the runner beans to produce more beans.
My new step-over apple trees are going great guns too.
There's plenty of fruit on these trees, which is wonderful in a way, but there can be too many. Now, there is a natural phenomenon called June drop. It's happened here on this cluster. This little fruit has not developed properly and it's dropped off. It's the tree's natural way of thinning its crop.
If a tree has too much fruit on it, it can affect the quality of the crop, but you can give it a helping hand.
What you need to do in summer, it's very simple pruning. These shoots that grow, pinch out the shoot tip after 3 or 4 leaves.
That way, you encourage the formation of next year's flower buds. It's not too late to add fruit to the veg patch this summer, but it'll need to be grown in a container. One of my favourites is perfect for small spaces.
This is a dwarf apricot. If you've got a doorstep and that's all, you can plant it in a tub and enjoy its fruits. Crocks in the bottom to cover the drainage holes, and then some ordinary peat-free multi-purpose compost inside.
Apricots love a sunny spot. To enjoy fruit this summer, look for a tree where young fruits are already starting to form.
I've really soaked the tree in its pot. That's very important when you're planting anything. Tap off the pot.
Then I tease out the roots, plant it at the right level, fill in and remove any unwanted branches.
Apricots, it's always summer pruning, never in winter. How quickly will this little apricot fruit? Look at that.
Frances is also enjoying the first harvest from her garden.
I'm near the end of the garden makeover and I'm really pleased with how it's going. My chilli farm is beginning to produce some chilies. I've got some strawberries ripening, figs look like they're ripe, which is very exciting. So lots happening. Some of the vegetables that I planted last week are looking a little bit questionable, so we'll see how they do. But it's absolutely full of lush edibles and I'm really pleased with it. But there are clever ways of getting even more into a tiny space. When you're looking for somewhere to grow your edibles, I always say, look up. There's this bit of wall space which is perfect for hanging a hanging basket.
Think of hanging baskets and you'll picture clusters of brightly coloured flowers. But Frances is hoping to achieve the same effect with vegetables.
I'm a firm believer that veg can be as beautiful as flowers. The key thing to remember is the fuller it is, the more you need to water it and the more you need to feed it. Now the first plant for me, which is a must when you're talking about colour, is beetroots. They're also incredibly good for you and they're delicious.
Not only is beetroot great for salads, its leaves are rich in calcium and iron.
They need a bit of space for the actual beets to develop, and the leaves themselves have lovely red veining, so they're really beautiful. And then something I absolutely love is chard. In this kind of space, it'll be more of a cut and come again type crop. And then just to really fill the gaps in between these, I'm going to add loads of different kinds of kale. And for my finishing flourish, it's always a great idea with a hanging basket to give it some spillage. So I'm using my favourite nasturtiums again, just around the edges. They'll hang over and they'll flower and they'll look absolutely beautiful. And it will grow so quickly and it will taste amazing too, which is the most important thing.
Frances is also squeezing in one last crop of climbing veg.
This is something I've wanted to try for ages, and it's called forest gardening. Now the theory is that you mimic what would happen in the wild, so you'd get a woodland and you'd have a kind of ground cover, you'd have a shrub layer, and then you'd have things climbing up the trees. So what I'm doing is just planting, this is a French climbing bean, at the base of this tree.
French beans can be planted until July. The climbing kind can grow up to 2.5 metres high, so if you don't have a tree, then a wigwam will work as a support.
And this will not harm the fig tree at all. It's an annual vegetable, so the roots won't invade the roots of the fig. And actually, in all beans and members of the pea family, the roots have these nodules that actually enrich the soil with nitrogen. So this will help the fig tree to grow in the long run. My final edible. This one's not for me, this is for the dog. And this is normally the gardener's enemy. This is couch grass. But in a pot here, it should stay fairly contained. Now, whether it's for digestive aids or just because they like the taste, dogs and cats do usually need a little bit of grass to chew. So if you have the room, it's always worth including some.
Just 8 weeks ago, Frances's garden was an uninspiring 5-metre-long narrow backyard. Its only feature was a bare brick wall. Now it's transformed.
Now I have a chilli farm, I have an orchard, I have a whole veg garden, and it looks absolutely beautiful. It's the garden that I always wanted. Now I have a sanctuary and a space that keeps me very, very busy and hopefully well fed all the way through the summer.
With every inch of my veg patches full to bursting, I'm planning my own mini makeover using gorgeous plants that'll give my crops a helping hand.
What I'm doing here is making a new border to frame the veg patch. These are really sturdy wooden troughs equipped with holes in the bottom for drainage, very important.
First, I'm adding structure and scent in the form of topiarised bay trees.
Now, bay trees are great in a kitchen garden for obvious reasons. They're good in the kitchen. I mean, these leaves are wonderful for winter soups and stews. They're also wonderful for winter in the garden because, being evergreen, they stay this shape and form.
Topiary bay trees have a shallow root system, so they'll be happy to grow in these 30-centimetre wide containers. Adding one in each of the outer troughs and 2 in the middle draws the eye inwards.
And you can trim it whenever you want to, but clip it for the last time in about September, and then it will stay crisp of outline right the way through the winter.
To contrast with the evergreens, I'm adding splashes of colour in the form of frothy, pastel-hued perennials.
If you have strawberries, raspberries, peas and beans which aren't cropping terribly well, the chances are the flowers aren't being pollinated. Planting flowers alongside your veg patch will draw in bees, hoverflies, other pollinating insects like bees to a honey pot. This is a plant I've always been very fond of. Bees love it. Scabious. It's called butterfly blue, and it tends to flower over a much longer period of time. This is a salvia called Velocity Blue, and it looks a bit like a skyrocket, doesn't it? Blues, pinks, a little bit of pale yellow. I like to think that this rather plain veg patch that we had has been hugely improved by my little narrow border of bee-friendly flowers. Job done, and I think that's really rather lovely.
Should we go and see what we can harvest?
Yeah.
In Warwickshire,
There's one here. Who's having that one?
David's traditional veg patch is bursting with delicious treats.
Wow!
I want a flower.
Flower for you.
But he's still found room for a pet project he's always wanted to try.
Today's a great day because we're going to start to grow some proper giant veg.
For the competitive veg grower, growing your own is all about the wow factor. Nurturing traditional veg until it grows to jaw-dropping proportions, they enter these monsters into competitions around Britain, all for the prestige of having Britain's biggest veg.
Kevin, you there?
Yeah, hi David, you okay?
Yeah, very good, thanks, mate.
Last year, Kevin Forty set a world record with this 53-pound beetroot and has agreed to share his monster veg growing secrets.
Initially, you need to identify a good seed source. These seeds may look the same as you get from a normal seed packet, but these seeds here are bred to produce record-breaking fruits and vegetables.
And then what tips have you got for growing?
If you give a vegetable more space, the plant has more air, so bigger roots allows you to get bigger, healthier harvests. You want to encourage leafy leaves. Chicken manure is very high in nitrogen.
So more space, more food, more water. I appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, thanks David, cheers.
In his quest to compete with the experts, David's trying out 2 different varieties. But first, he adds a sprinkling of Kevin's magic formula.
Chicken manure. You'll be relieved to know that it is not horrible, stinky manure, and you just simply sprinkle it over the surface of the soil like that.
A true crowd pleaser in the monster veg world is the cabbage. Cabbage plants can be planted now for harvesting in September, but David's found a variety that can grow up to 7 times bigger than an ordinary cabbage.
This is called Robinson's Giant. I can get 4 in if I plant them 30 centimetres apart. I've got to keep an eye open for the lovely cabbage white butterflies because they lay their eggs on the underside of the leaves. Then the caterpillars come out and scoff them. You need to pull them off and get rid of them pretty quickly.
Leeks are another favourite amongst competitive veg growers. As well as length and girth, prize-winning leeks are known for the whiteness of their stems.
This particular variety is called Mammoth Blanche.
And Mammoth Blanche will grow 3 times as big as an ordinary leek, and there's a trick for whitening them as they grow.
The experts, the Kevins of the growing world, they use a little bit of piping so it grows up and taller, of course, as they get it bigger and they get it bigger. But for the time being, certainly for the first 3 weeks, I'm going to leave them as they are to get settled in the bed here.
For his final bed, David's had a delivery that'll take pride of place in his veg patch.
Kevin has been growing this cabbage since January. It was supposed to be for a special show, but under the current circumstances, it's been cancelled, so he's gifted it to me.
It's already a metre wide.
I don't think I've ever dug so deep for a vegetable before.
But over the next few months, it could grow a third bigger.
I can't wait to see what the kids think of it.
With the final piece of the puzzle in place, David's transformation of his traditional veg patch is complete. What began as a few planters around the greenhouse is now filled with delicious treats that'll keep his family fed throughout the year. With abundant raised beds, fruit trees and bushes, containers filled with barbecue-friendly treats, a mini allotment stuffed with autumn and winter veg, and cold frames packed with tender sweet potatoes and aubergines.
That cabbage is bigger than you, mate. Huge. Wow. Be gentle with it. Since we started creating all these extra beds, the interest of the kids have been phenomenal. We come down every morning to water to see how things have grown. It's that magic, and it's doing it as a family that makes the difference. We need to give it a name. What should we call it?
Cabbage.
I was going to call it Alan.
Cheeky. While David's plot has expanded week by week, Katie has been finding ways to grow fruit and veg in the smallest and trickiest of spaces, and she's not done yet.
I still do have one area that I want to make a bit of a tasty destination.
She's going to transform her small patio into an elegant and delicious tasting seating area.
This time I'm going off the ground with using these containers because I want everything to be surrounding me at a pickable and sniffable height. I'm going to be growing lots of salad crops that I use really regularly.
In a lower level container, she's adding spring onions.
It has been lovely to be able to just go out with the scissors and snip your own.
And mixed salad leaves.
This wonderful stuff is American land cress. Now it tastes like watercress, but it doesn't need running water to grow. You can grow it in part shade, you can harvest it and it will come back, and it'll even grow through the winter months.
At a sniffable height, Katie's filling a taller container with one of her favourite herbs, zesty lemon thyme.
Thyme loves free draining compost, so I'm going to add some grit. I'd say maybe 20% grit to 80% compost. In this little pot, I've got a little compact marjoram and tarragon, which I love.
And finally, a little-known member of the mint family, hyssop.
Now it gets to about 60 centimetres tall. It kind of has a lovely floral taste to it as well. And apparently, you can put a teaspoon of it into your Yorkshire puddings.
Katie's adding colour and scent at eye level too.
I absolutely love roses, and this one is no exception. It's called Golden Celebration, and isn't it just? Look at it. Oh, it smells so delicious. It's like sherbet lemons with a cream tea. It's just absolutely amazing.
This fragrant rose will keep flowering right across the summer if it's deadheaded regularly.
Roses are hungry plants, and I usually scrape off a good couple of inches off the top of the container of soil, and then I replace that with a mulch or a new compost. I'm going to underplant it with lavender, another of my favourites, and it will hopefully surround me with lovely scent when I'm sat down. Now I'm trying my best to arrange these so they really kind of sweep around the seating area. I want a height at the back and then lots of things at the front, kind of at reachable height. I'm really pleased.
Thanks to ingenious ideas and clever design, Katie now has 6 individual miniature fruit and veg gardens, all of which are bursting with produce.
I did my indoor planters, which I have to say have been amazing. We have used them every day to make salad dressings and flavoured drinks and stuff. I've loved having them there. I love my green wall, that's really matured. My hydroponics have been nerdy and quite exciting. I've liked watching how they've come on. steel planters, I think, have got to be my favourite bit of the garden. They just look so statemently, and I'm really, really pleased with those. I think I am a total convert to growing fruit and veg. Oh, they're so yummy.
It's been a strange old summer for all of us, particularly for Alison and me. My wife has become a camera person. Don't be afraid, Alison, I'm coming over there just to have a look. Move back. Here we are, on our own, but growing our own food, and there really is no thrill like it. From this fork to the fork in the kitchen.
Even if you only have a window box or a tub, growing something and then eating it yourself not only feeds the body, it feeds the soul as well.
I hope you've enjoyed growing your own. Till the next time, bye-bye.